In this lecture, we'll take things to the next level by learning how to install ESLint with our project. We'll be working on a fresh project for this example. Currently, the directory I'm in is empty. We won't need anything to get started. We can install ESLint as a module for our project. Inside the command line, run the command npm install -g ESLint. This will install ESLint globally. While installing this module, we are provided with a brand new command called ESLint. To verify that the module is installed, we can use the --" version option to check for the version. As of this lecture, I currently have version 7 installed. If you're on a newer version, then don't worry. ESLint is incredibly good at keeping itself backward compatible. Very rarely will you have to update much of your settings between versions. It's time to start using it. Inside our project, we'll create a file called app.js. The contents of this file will be the exact code we had in the demo. We'll create a variable called foo assigned to the value of 5. We'll call the document.write method to output the variable onto the page. ESLint requires that we create a configuration file to instruct it on what rules should be checked against our code. There are various ways we can do this. We can add the rules to the package.json file, or we can create a separate configuration file. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the ESLint configuration page. Right at the beginning, it's telling us that we can define the configuration settings in the package file or in a separate file. We'll be going with the separate file route because that's the most common way to configure it. If we click on the link, we'll be taken to a section with more information on creating this file. It's telling us that we can use any of the following formats while also providing the priority it will use if we had multiple configuration files. Use the format you're most comfortable with. For this example, I'm going to go with a JSON format. Back inside the project directory, we'll create a file called .eslintrc.json. Inside this file, we'll input an empty object. This object should contain your settings, but we'll leave it empty for now. We want to first verify if ESLint is working. To run this file through ESLint, we'll need to use the ESLint command inside the command line. Right after this, we have the option of passing in the name of the file we'd like to check. We'll pass in app.js and run the command. Shortly after running the command, nothing happens. This is because we haven't added any rules. Therefore, ESLint assumed the file was lint-free. If you don't see anything, it means there were no errors. The file was lint-free. Of course, it's the same as not having ESLint installed at this point. Let's add some settings. There are dozens of rules we can add. Going through each of them would be slow and inefficient. As you may have seen in the demonstration, there are dozens of settings. Luckily, ESLint comes with a preset we can use. Presets are a way to configure ESLint without having to type every setting. If there are any settings we want to override, we'll be able to do so easily. Inside the object, add a property called extends. This property will allow us to set a preset in our configuration. The preset we'll be using is called ESLint:recommended. This preset will give us all the rules we had previously. Let's test if it works. Inside the command line, run the same command, ESLint app.js. This time we'll get an error. Let's break it down. ESLint will tell us the file where the error occurred along with the line number. Then, it'll give us a friendly description of what's going on. It's telling us that the document object is not a defined variable. We'll fix this in a moment. One of the important things about the error is the name of the rule. The rule is called noUndef. We can search through the documentation for this rule. Back in the browser, let's search for the rule using the search bar. There will be a couple of results because there are rules with a similar name. Click on the one that exactly matches the rule we typed in. We'll come across a page that describes in detail how the error works. This documentation page is incredibly helpful because it provides reasoning as to why we get the error, how to fix it, and other information. I highly recommend searching for rules when you come across them to understand them better. Let's try fixing the error we get. We're getting this error because the document object is undefined. However, this is a variable that's defined by the environment. There are dozens of environments JavaScript can run in. ESLint doesn't assume which environment our code will run in. We want to let ESLint know that this code will run on the browser. Inside the configuration file, we're going to add another property called environment. This property will be set to an object of environments that we can turn on or off. From here, we can add the browser environment and set it to true. This setting should fix the error we have below. Once again, we'll run the command ESLint app.js. This time, errors won't pop up. We can proceed as normal. If you're interested in a complete list of rules, you can find it on the official site. Under the User Guide menu link, click on the Rules link. Upon clicking this link, we'll find all the rules available. At the very top, ESLint provides some information about the extends property we added earlier. No rules are enabled by default. The ESLint recommended property in a configuration file enables rules that report common problems, which have a checkmark below. As it states, each rule with a checkmark beside it indicates that the rule is part of the recommended preset of rules. If you want more information about a particular rule, then you can click on it. The page will show you information about how the rule works. It'll tell you what is considered invalid or valid code. If you want other rules, then you'll have to add it in manually. Vice versa, if there's a rule you're not fond of, then you can disable it by adding it in and setting the value to false. Alright, that wraps it up for this lecture. We'll discuss it more in the next one.